I see Councillors Curran, Forbes, and Back on the call, and Murray on the call. Do we have regrets from Councillor Hanson, or is Councillor Hanson expected?
Hi, Mayor Little. Just advise that Councillor Hanson did send his regrets.
Okay. Well, then we're going to get underway here. So I'm going to call to order the special meeting of council for, let's see here, where's my notes here? There we go. I'm going to call to order the special meeting of council for Thursday, July 28th at 2 o'clock. Council, there's been an agenda that's been circulated. Are there any errors or omissions from the agenda as presented? Hearing none, I'm going to, I'll call the question on the motion. Oh, sorry, I guess I need a mover and a seconder for the agenda. Moved by Councillor Curran, second by Councillor Bond. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. This meeting is being convened as a special meeting of council to consider one item. A special meeting of council doesn't have necessarily all of the trappings of a regular meeting of council. We will still have an opportunity for members of the public to contribute their comments, but only specifically on the item being considered today, rather than a regular meeting, which would have opportunity for a broader discussion. Very specifically, I wanted to address something just before we got going on this. The reason why this is being considered now, in my view, it is both emergent and urgent. It was something that we didn't have notice of early enough. We only got the letter recently about the need for the change. And also, it has very dire financial consequences for the organization if we don't consider the matter, rather than waiting until potentially the new council is elected and sworn in November. So we are trying to expedite this reasonably fast. The other thing I wanted to mention about today is it's sort of the first time we're using the new legislation on the recommendation to waive a public hearing. And so what we're actually considering here today, normally you would see first reading and then refer the matter to a public hearing for discussion, and then it would come back from the public hearing for second and third. And what you're seeing here is that we're considering the matter, and then there's a recommendation to not hold the public hearing, and that a public hearing not be held with respect to bylaw 8593. The wording on this is a little bit of a work in progress. We're going to have to see how best to use this piece of legislation. But really, the intent of today's discussion is to give notice that we're going to be considering this in the fall, and that we're going to be giving out the notice to waive the public hearing in the process. And so really the decision point today is on whether or not we're going to be waiving the public hearing at this time. And so with that in mind, I do have 3 members of the public that have signed up to speak today. And so I'm going to welcome Patrick McLaughlin, followed by Corey Cost, and then Peter Teven. Patrick McLaughlin, I actually don't see Patrick McLaughlin on the call. Can I check in? Oh, there we go. Welcome. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Patrick McLaughlin. I'm the president of Kiwanis North Shore Housing Society. I'm delighted to say that after 4 years, Lynn Woods is complete. It looks great, and tenants have started to move in. I'd also like to thank Council and district staff for your support throughout the development process, and particularly for your financial contribution that have made this project possible. Thank you also, Mayor Little, for hosting this meeting today to make it possible for you to consider our concern. So Kiwanis has been marketing the Lynn Woods apartment building for the last 4 months. We have leased 30 out of the 106 apartments. That's about half the number that we had planned to have rented at this stage. However, that in itself isn't the major issue that we're concerned about right now. As you may be aware, the project was financed through BC Housing's Community Housing Fund, which has very strict guidelines for tenant selection and rents. The guidelines allow for 3 groups of tenants based on income, including income assistance, low income with rent geared to income, and moderate income. Allowable incomes range from 15,000 to about 77,000 per year, and rents range from $375 per month to $1,570 per month. All but one of our new tenants have qualified with incomes in the range of 15,000 to 30,000 per year. And BC Housing requires that we rent an equal number of units to tenants with higher incomes in the range of 30,000 to 77,000. Kiwanis is very concerned that we have not been able to secure tenants in the upper income range. And in the meantime, we have 61 of these units that are sitting vacant when we believe that there are residents in the community who are in need of affordable housing. We explained this situation to BC Housing about 3 weeks ago, and they advised us to chat with the district and to ask specifically for a reduction in the minimum age from age 65 to 55, which is consistent with their definition of a senior. The purpose of this amendment is to appeal to a younger seniors demographic who are still working and have sufficient income to support higher rents for IGI rent geared to income and moderate income units. BC Housing also informed us that our project is unique compared to all the other community housing fund projects in the province. It was shocking to find out that none of the other projects are for seniors only, and none of them have age limits. So as a result, other nonprofit housing operators have a much larger market for tenants to select from. Kiwanis needs to broaden the target market for specific units in Lynn Woods, and that's the reason for our request to reduce the age limit from 65 to 55. We would really appreciate your support and look forward to being able to fill these units up for tenants in the community that really need affordable rental housing. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments here today, Patrick McLaughlin, and obviously thank you to Kiwanis for the work that you do in our community. The next speaker is Corey Cost. Corey, can you hear me?
Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of council. Yes, I can hear you. I hope you can see and hear me.
Yes, I can. Welcome. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Right. I will just, if it's possible, can I share a screen?
That should be possible.
Okay. It's just a simple thing. As you know, I sent in my overview on this issue yesterday, and you should have gotten that. I just want to add to that on reviewing the my notes of the regular council meeting of July the 23rd, 2018.
Sorry, is there something that we're supposed to be seeing?
Yes.
I don't,
you should
there's
be able
nothing
to
on,
see.
I can't see anything.
Okay,
Right.
then I think I have to hit the share button.
There you go.
Yes. And you can see the title of the subject matter that that evening that I made notes out. And Councillor Hicks said that it was a win-win situation in his opinion. Councillor Bond mentioned that there's $150,000 per month cost increases, warning that essentially delays are going to be costly. The Lynn Valley Community Association supported the project. Councillor Murray supports it, but has construction concerns, which I think later became warranted. And Mayor Walton at that time said that the whole project should be wrapped up between 18 months to 2 years. Now, our council voted to issue the development permit September 17th, 2018. And in reality, the construction really took 4 years from roughly that date of the notes that I took. I'm not sure what the issue was related to COVID-19 or not, but probably certain didn't do any good. Note that the subject matter of tonight's issue is zoning and housing agreement amendments. When you amend the zoning, of course, that automatically triggers, in my opinion, the requirement for a public hearing. There is no option to waive when that is the case. But council has a policy, nevertheless, even if they could waive it, to not waive it. So I'd be surprised if council took that route. I also note that younger residents would tend to drive more, so that's a consideration. And I've already illustrated to council my overall feeling on this matter, and I'll wind up with a statement that I think gives my point of view. Whether this proposal goes to a public hearing or not, for compassionate reasons, I really don't want to oppose this amending project to go ahead. So let's not really, as many have stated, have perfection be the enemy of the good. Thanks for allowing me to speak.
Your comments, Corey Cost. The next speaker I have is Peter Teven. It'll just take us a moment to get the spotlighting fixed back up on Zoom again, but
Tell me when you want me to start, please.
Peter, are you going to be doing PowerPoint?
Not today.
Okay.
No, I'm on vacation.
We're ready to go then, Peter, at your pleasure.
Okay.
Minutes to address council.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Yeah, I just I wanted to address a couple of points for all of you to consider. First of all, I think that, you know, I have been advocating, a number of you have been advocating for the last 5 straight years to have a hard set definition of what this council and therefore the District of North Vancouver considers to be affordable. I think this situation highlights the urgent need for such a definition. I submit to you that, you know, first of all, the information that I got from the staff report did not adequately inform me. In fact, I got more information from Mr. McLaughlin speaking for 3 minutes or less, and from Dr. Cost's review that he shared with me yesterday. And so I really find, you know, it's kind of interesting that the proposal is to bypass a public hearing when it seems to me that the best information you're getting is from the public. I submit to you that the problem here seems evident that it's BC Housing's funding model. And therefore, what we've got is a dilemma that's caused by kind of prescribed inside the box thinking. I think that a public hearing, short as it may be, would give you some outside the box thinking. I don't think personally that changing the age range is suddenly going to make a $1,570 a month 1-bedroom apartment that I think is plus parking. I don't think that's suddenly going to make that marketable. I don't think that's the root cause. I think the root cause is the rent formula prescribed by BC Housing. And I really think that a public hearing would give you some, you know, more insight into why that might be. You know, I don't think that if you took a person that's, say, 57 years old, and if you take $1,570 a month and you use the prescribed formula of 30% for affordability and you divide that back, you get about $60,000 to $65,000 of income. But then I believe, and nobody's made this clear, whether the asset limits also apply to that would-be tenant. And I submit that a 57-year-old person that earns close to $60,000 to $65,000 a year, there's probably very, very few who have under $400,000 in lifetime accrued assets. And so I'm not so sure that you're going to solve your problem by just switching the age. And I think it's a very dangerous precedent to bypass a public hearing because, you know, I would say this, anybody who wants to advocate for bypassing a public hearing, what are you afraid of? I mean, it's probably going to take 2-3 hours max, and you might get some good ideas. But I don't believe changing the range of the age is going to fix the problem, not at the rents prescribed. And I guess that's really the summary of what I want to say. I think it also sets a dangerous precedent to break with our policy, and I find it rather audacious that recommendation was put forward given council's policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Teven. Okay, council. Again, just a reminder that really the action from tonight is whether we're holding a public hearing or not. There will still be opportunity at first, second, third reading to discuss the merits of the proposal in the fall when the matter comes back. What we're really looking for today is direction on the waiving of the hearing. But obviously all the content is in the report there. So at this time, I'm going to be looking to, is Robin Hay on the call or Mr. Milburn? You're going to be handling it from staff side?
Your worship, we do have an introductory presentation from Mr. Darren Veers. Just to note, I think there were some comments made about waiver or the necessity of public hearing. Councillors will recall that the provincial government amended the Local Government Act and specifically changed the requirements with respect to public hearing. Currently, a local government is not required to hold a public hearing if the proposed zoning bylaw is consistent with the official community plan. If it is inconsistent with the official community plan, a public hearing is required. So what council will typically see in a normal situation is a resolution to consider to hold a public hearing. So it's a positive resolution to hold one, despite the fact that the Local Government Act does not require a hearing be held. In this particular case, we're recommending that a hearing is unnecessary for the reasons outlined in the staff report, and instead public notice be provided so that council can hear from the public about any concerns and issues. So we're not saying there's no method for the community to present information to council, but it would be essentially noticed to the public, and then we could receive any kind of written comments, which would be provided to council and summarized when we come back to council for readings consideration. So it is not circumventing the process, it's just suggesting that this is an appropriate process to follow given the proposal that's before council. So limited circumstance, and I think Mr. Veers can provide a more detailed overview of the exact proposal that's before council so that you can make a decision and give us some direction with respect to the holding of the hearing and considering this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Milburn. Mr. Veers?
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. I have a presentation here. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. Your worship and members of council, I'll provide a brief overview of this application. My name is Darren Veers, and I'm the senior planner in the development planning department of the district. So Kiwanis North Shore Housing Society has applied to amend the rezoning bylaw and housing agreement for the property at 2555 Whiteley Court. The applicant is proposing to amend the age limit requirement in the newly constructed 6-story Lynn Woods building from 65 years and older to 60 years and older for 21 low-income units, and from 65 years and older to 55 years and older for the remaining 85 rent geared to income and low to moderate income units. The adjacent existing 1970s 16-story building known as Lynn Manor will continue to operate as before and rent to seniors 65 years and older. This added flexibility will allow for a wider range of tenants to qualify for housing, assist in leasing all of the units in the building, and ensure the building remains predominantly a seniors residence. It also brings the definition of seniors into alignment with BC Housing's definition. The applicant is also proposing to amend the minimum parking ratio from 0.33 parking spaces per unit to 0.45 to better reflect the needs of residents from 55 years and older. A total of 156 parking spaces are provided, which is in compliance with the district's alternative vehicle parking rates policy. This parking is provided within an existing 2-level underground parkade and an area of surface parking. Given this application's consistency with the official community plan and supportive feedback received during the rezoning phase in 2018, staff recommend that no public hearing be held for this application. In conclusion, staff are supportive of the amendment as it aligns with BC Housing's definition of a senior. It does not change the density, height, setback, or any other aspects of the building design, and will help with the ongoing leasing of this non-profit affordable seniors housing project. And before I wrap up here, there was a question from a councillor just before the meeting, and the question was, are there additional eligibility requirements for low-income units other than income, with specific reference to asset ownership? And the answer is BC Housing does not have any requirements, but Kiwanis has a limit of $400,000 in assets, which are part of their eligibility requirements that are layered on top of BC Housing's. And with that, I'll conclude my presentation, and the zoning and housing agreement amendments are ready for council's consideration.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Beers. I will be moving the staff recommendation. Will somebody be seconding? Councillor Murray, are you seconding the staff recommendation?
Yes, Mayor Little.
Okay, thank you very much. Just my own comments on the matter. Yes, I think that it is reasonable to waive the public hearing in this case. It is not a development and density case. It's not a change in use or zoning. And so this is just a recognition of the mix of units and how they're used on the different funding formula. But by and large, it is intended to do exactly what we set out in the first place, which was to fill the building up with people who needed assistance and that they met the requirements of the Kiwanis program. More broadly speaking, I don't want to see us eroding the supports we have in our community for older persons, including particularly at the higher end, 75 plus as well. And Kiwanis has always done an amazing job of providing not only housing, but some programming in those spaces. And so when we were looking at the calculation in the fall, and we have that discussion, I just want to make sure that we're also not changing the nature of the programming in the space or bringing in individuals that need a higher level of care than Kiwanis is set up to provide. And so, but again, that's really for the discussion when this comes back for the bylaw readings. As far as I'm concerned, it is reasonable to waive the public hearing, and I'll be supporting that recommendation from staff. Councillor Murray, your comments?
Thank you, Mayor Little. I concur with your comments in regards to the public hearing. The public will still have an opportunity to address council if it has any concerns. And I don't think there will be any concerns from the public. I think this is something that is, something that has enlightened us in regards to, the models that exist and maybe some of the perspectives that were considered years ago and the reality that we're in today. I would like to applaud Kiwanis for having a limit in regards to net worth. I think that maintains truly looking after residents that are in a lower income bracket and allows them to be able to access housing. And I also concur with Councillor Koss' comments in regards to the model that BC Housing uses. And, it ultimately, I think, needs to be addressed. And there should be a limit as well within BC Housing's model that net worth is something that has to be looked at. Maybe the new board of BC Housing will be able to tackle that one. And Mr. Veeries, just one question to you. You said that this will predominantly continue to support seniors, that being 65 and older, and then some of the units under this proposal will be 55. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Councillor Murray, or through your worship to Councillor Murray. On page 10 of the council package, you'll see the breakdown of the units for the Lynn Woods building. And
so Kiwanis Lynn Manor will be 65. Lynn Woods building will be a sort of a mixture.
That's correct.
And that was your comment in regards to predominantly. Okay. All right. So I'm fine with it. Thank you. I'll be supporting the amendment. Hearing or so can somebody just tell me, so we're doing the waiving of the hearing today, and then this is going to come back in the fall for the amendment to be then approved. Okay. And that will be the first meeting, I assume, in September.
I think that's the intent. September 19th, I think, is the intent, but we can clarify that. Can I just check with the clerk? Is that the intent to return the matter for its first readings in the September 19th meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Councillor Bond, your comments?
Thank you, Mayor Little. I'm supportive of the staff recommendation as well. The only thing that seems, I guess, it's a little bit strange, and both as myself as a councillor and probably members of the public, is the inability to fill over 60 units of affordable housing for seniors in the district. And I would like to get some more information from staff and perhaps reaching out to Kiwanis and BC Housing. I know that the wait lists for housing continue to be long, specifically affordable housing, and it would be helpful for council and the public to understand exactly the people that are on the wait list, if it's able to be shared, what type of income levels are the people that are waiting for housing, what type of sizes of homes, and in terms of numbers of bedrooms and the income levels. We know that the need for at the lowest ends of incomes is acute. We've also heard that all spectrums of incomes have an acute need for housing in our community. So it would be useful to take some of that existing information and kind of refresh our understanding of where the most need is in our community. But other than that, and kind of updating our understanding of that, I'm supportive of the proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Bond. And Council, my apologies, a member of the public had raised a virtual hand and I didn't catch it at the time. I'm gonna just interrupt the order here and go back to the public. Can we move Mr. Colbert over as a panelist? I see Hazen Colbert has a virtual hand up, and and I missed that at the front end when the public was giving their input. My apologies, Hazen Colbert, can you hear me? It takes a moment. Hazen Colbert, can you hear me?
Mayor Little, I can hear you.
Oh, yes. Terribly sorry I missed your virtual hand at the beginning of the meeting. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Thank you, Mayor Little and council. I will start off by saying my interest in this building is because it is literally a hand or an arm's length from my home. I live right beside it, literally right beside it. And I've been actually providing input to this project since 2017. Mr. McLaughlin and I have met on more than one occasion, going back 5 years. At the time, in the original public hearing in 2018, and I think the date was July the 10th of 2018, my public input was I supported the project, and the only two things I would change was reducing the age to age 60 and allowing building on the ground floor to be pet friendly. I see no reason to change my input today. I still agree with those positions, and if there is merit to reducing the age to 55, I'm fine with that. It's way above my pay grade to understand the conditions for waiving a public hearing, so I don't address that issue. I leave it to more qualified people. A couple of issues that I do want to raise, though, based on my experience, I do taxes now. That's my full-time occupation. I can tell you that there are lots of people in the District of North Vancouver under the age of 60 with far less than $400,000 a year in assets, far less. In fact, some of them have negative assets. So there is a target market there that is available. The second thing I want to say is that the income levels, no, not the income levels, the category of income level in the staff presentation for $375 a month in rent or less is referred to as, and I think I'm quoting here, shelter housing. I think that the phrase shelter housing comes with a great deal of stigma attached to it. And I would rather that a different phrase be used, such as income supported housing or something of that nature. I think those words do matter a lot. I don't think people want to be stigmatized in an application to a housing provider by using that category. The last thing I will mention, and only because sometimes in contracts details matter, the staff presentation uses the address 2555 Whiteley Court, which in fact was accurate when the bylaw was passed in 2018. However, the property has been bifurcated into two addresses now. 2555 is the tower and 2551 is the new building. So I would suggest the staff report be slightly amended to read 2555 Whiteley Court as amended 2555 and 2551 Whiteley Court. And thank you, Council, for your time this afternoon.
Great. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Colbert. Okay, Council, returning back to the Council speaking list, the next speaker I have is Councillor Forbes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I supported this project back when I was a member of the Lynn Valley Community Association, and I still do. And there's been a little blip here in the progress of it, but that's not going to stop it, and we certainly need it in the district. I did have two questions, though. I asked a number of questions before this meeting, and thank you, staff, for getting back as quickly as you did to me. I have read somewhere, and I was just trying to quickly find it if it was on the Kiwanis website, but I thought I read somewhere that the 400,000 asset was for a couple and that it was 200,000 for a single person. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
I'm not aware of, through Your Worship to Councillor Forbes, I'm not aware of a difference in between an individual or couple for assets, but perhaps Patrick McLaughlin could clarify that if he's still on the call.
Patrick McLaughlin, can you answer?
Hello, Mayor Little, through Mayor Little to Councillor Forbes. We used to have an asset limit of 250, and maybe that's where you've seen that. We now have one limit for everybody, singles or couples, of 400,000.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I guess the other thing I was going to ask ties in with the questions that Councillor Bond raised. I too wanted to understand why there was a lack in filling this, and I think that needs to really be looked at because it could probably give us some valuable information. And are those units in the building, in the new building, the tower, are they mainly one bedroom or studio like the older part of the development was?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Forbes, the Lynn Manor comprises 96 bachelor units and 109 one-bedroom units and 4 ground level units.
Thank you. My grandmother stayed there in the older building, and she just had a bachelor unit, but it was very large, and she enjoyed her stay there quite a bit. I do think I'd like to get a little more history on why trouble filling this, what the income level that seems to be ready to fill this up or fill up these vacancies, and anything else along those lines that would help us understand why this situation came up. So I'm supportive of it not needing to go to a public hearing, even though it's not our normal case. I think because of the monetary cost to Kiwanis and the time to take this all the way to public hearing and then out again, as long as the public has a chance between our readings to make comment, then I'm fine with this going forward with no public hearing. Thank you.
Councillor Forbes. Next speaker I have is Councillor Curran.
Thank you. Yeah, I concur with some of the comments made around wanting a bit more information because I think it sounds, we know that there's a long waiting list, so it would be nice to get more information on that as it comes back. And I did just want to ask the applicant if it's appropriate about, there was talk in the community around some of the residents that were displaced from the fire at Silver Lynn having the opportunity to stay within their community because some of the housing that was offered was outside of the community. And I wondered if we were able to make any connections there and or if the challenge that we're facing is that the seniors need the lower income and it doesn't fit this model, is there any opportunity for us to advocate to the province for them to support the building at levels that would work for the building, but then also provide opportunities for people who were potentially displaced to stay in the community?
Okay, Patrick McLaughlin, do you have a response?
Yep, I'd be glad to respond to that again through Mayor Little to Councillor Curran. BC Housing reached out directly to us to see if we could help out with some of those displaced tenants. And we have in fact placed 2 of them in the manor already. So we've taken care of the 2 people who didn't have accommodation, and we're more than glad to help them.
Thank you. And yeah, thanks for that. And I hope that this does help because we know there's a great need. So it seems like we're just having some barriers getting there, but I've no doubt these units will be filled and make happy homes for people soon. So thanks for that. We look forward to filling them up.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Beck, your comments.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have too much to add at this point in the conversation other than to express my appreciation for Kiwanis. I think they're an excellent housing provider in our community. Certainly familiar with Lynn Manor, having visited there over the years, and they've created a wonderful sense of community there. So just as has been stated by my colleagues here, I also support kind of taking a deeper look in terms of why we are unable to fill these units with the current list of people who have applied. So look forward to having that conversation, but definitely appreciate the urgency of the situation now. So I am supportive of waiving the public hearing. I do think the public will have opportunities to continue to weigh in on this issue, but I don't think there's a need for a public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beck. I see no further speakers on the matter. I'm prepared to call the question. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. Thank you very much. As that was the only item of business this evening or this afternoon, will somebody please move adjournment?
Move adjournment.
Moved by Councillor Beck. I accept. Thank you all so much. Thank you to members of the public for participating. Thank you to staff for preparing for the meeting and council for your decision today. And for many of us, this is our last meeting before a summer break. And so please be safe, enjoy your time away, and have a great week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.